Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Australian on the home side, half Swedish on the away side. Not often you can say that, but both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel quite a few times before. When it comes to the Australian brewery, they are one that I discovered maybe about 2 years ago. They're most definitely best known for their different kinds of fruity, juicy, smoothie, Nordic, whatever we're going to call them, sour beers, and also for their New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. Very, very good brewery in terms of those two style categories, and they do some other very interesting stuff as well from what I've seen, but I need to kind of investigate those a little bit more. When it comes to the Swedish brewery, these guys were one of my local breweries in Skåne. I will go back there, I'm sure, so I still call them one of my local breweries, one of my local Swedish breweries, and these guys are most definitely best known for their fruity, juicy, smoothie, Nordic, whatever we're going to call them, sour beers. But in recent times, they have diversified a little bit and they're starting to brew different things. So hopefully, when I get back to Sweden in the summer, I can check out some of those. Fingers crossed. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of the Australian brewery's latest releases here in Hong Kong. They released about 10 beers in the last week or two here, and when I saw this one had the Swedish brewery on it as well, I thought, have to have that. But it's a style that I know both breweries can do very, very well. One that I've had from both breweries many times before, and I've heard very good things about this particular beer too. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to head down to Australia, like I said, the state of New South Wales, the city of Sydney, and the district of Botany, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Drop Brewing company. So this particular beer is called Spark Us Up. It comes in at 6% ABV. They're describing it as a quadruple fruited pulp sour, and this one contains blueberry, raspberry, passion fruit, and dragon fruit as well. But this is brewed in collaboration with the wonderful Elmeleven, who are from Arlöv, just outside of Malmö, in Skåne, in the very south of Sweden. And those guys are the ones who really introduced me to the smoothie sour. Them, along with the likes of Duck Pond in Sweden, are doing some really great beers in this style category. When I moved out to Hong Kong, I discovered Drop, and you know, these guys are equally as good as Elmeleven. So I was really excited when I saw that they'd done a collaboration beer together. So yeah, this one I was very excited for. They had 10 Drop beers. I was trying to decide which ones to get. This is the one I saw. Elmeleven, just had to do it. So yeah, nice to feature Elmeleven on the channel again after what feels like a good little while. But yeah, this should be very nice. I'm really looking forward to this. So yeah, let's crack on then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Drop Brewing and from Elmeleven, and hopefully we can add more to both of those lists at some point in the very near future, although Elmeleven might be a little bit more difficult at the moment. Hopefully we get more of their beers here in Hong Kong. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in both the Australian playlist and the Swedish playlist, since this beer is dual nationality. And do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. If you're particularly interested in Australian beer, I also recommend you check out my friend Sam Smalley over at Short and Stout Beer Reviews, and you can also check out Cooler Beer as well, who's doing some very nice Swedish reviews as well, in Swedish though, I will add. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about One Drop Brewing first off then, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, One Drop Brewing, as I mentioned to you already, are based in the Botany district of Sydney, very close to the airport, and they were founded in mid-2016, although they wouldn't open their doors until 2019. But the 4 people behind this company are Clay Grant, Meg Barbich, Nick Calder-Scholes and Liam Quinn. So Clay has a background in food catering, and he shared the idea with Meg, his wife, that he wanted to start a brewery, and she was very, very supportive of this, and she had worked with tech startups and liked the idea of them having their own startup company together. So Nick is originally from New Zealand, and he was the original head brewer at Garage Brewery at Garden Brewery, not Garage Brewery, at Garden Brewery in Zagreb in Croatia, which is a beautiful site, by the way. I do recommend that you go and check it out. And he met Meg and Clay there, who were on holiday visiting Meg's family. Liam, on the other hand, is Nick's best friend, and he was in the Australian Army, but he also had a lot of experience in the hospitality sector as well. So they were able to draw on quite a wide variety of skills to get the company off the ground. But Clay and Meg founded the company officially in mid-2016 when they designed the brand and started planning the company, and apparently they sold their house to fund it, and also decided to use a little bit of the money to go and visit Croatia, which is where they met Nick, and he would join the venture in 2018. So the idea behind the name One Drop is that a single idea or action can change the course of everything, and Meg and Clay say that that's what happened for them with One Drop. And of course it would be, it was quite random, I guess, meeting a New Zealand brewer in Croatia when they went there. But the brewery itself is located in an old paper mill, and they sourced their brewing equipment from Canadian company DME, who I believe went bust if I'm not mistaken. But this includes a 12 hectolitre brew kit, 6 24 hectolitre fermentation vessels, and they've also got a canning line from East Coast Canning as well. But I believe they've scaled up the brewery quite significantly since their foundation, because their beers are going all across the world now. But as of May 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 510 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I mentioned to you, they're probably best known for the different kinds of fruity juice and smoothie sour beers, but they do some very good New England hazy IPAs as well. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about One Drop Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go to the European side then. Let's go back to my second motherland of Sweden. So Elmeleven, as I've mentioned to you already, were founded in Malmö, but they're now based in Arlöv, just outside of the city, and the company was founded by Anders Kvist. So he started his brewing project back in 2016, and he says that he views brewing his beer as his sort of artistic expression. And his interest in beer started when his friend bought him what he called a non-industrial lager beer, and he was just blown away, this is what beer could actually be. But soon after this, his girlfriend bought him a cheap beer kit where you could just add water, and he just felt that, you must be able to do this so much better. And so this was what pushed him into, home brewing. So he took part in various competitions, and then he joined the Minus Ett, or Minus One collective at the Bishop's Arms in Gustav Adolfs Torg in Malmö, and it was there that he sold his first commercial beers. So production had been very small over the first couple of years, only a few thousand litres, but a while later he started brewing in the Nerd, Chad and Lilla Ölfabriken brewery in Rosengård in Malmö, and he had several Systembolaget releases over the course of 2020, and things just went from there. So in the early days he was brewing quite a few IPAs, but he then started to focus on sour beers. And he does say, he wants to try new things going forward. But in March of 2021, a new collective called Molecule was announced. This included Elmeleven, Nerd Brewing and Chad Beer, and they have their brewery in Arlöv, and it started off with a 1500 litre brew kit. Nerd Brewing, though, left Molecule in mid-2024, and after this, the Chad Beer brand was dissolved, and the IPAs that were released under this brand are now sold under the Elmeleven brand. So yeah, the company is now led by both Anders and Chad Payton of Chad Beer, and they seem to be doing quite well. Hopefully I can try a few of the other beers from the Elmeleven brand as well when I go back to Sweden in the summer. But the name Elmeleven comes from where Anders lived, which is Almbacksgatan 11. 11 is 11, of course, and Alm in English is elm, as in the species of tree, and this is just something that really stuck with Anders from his home brewing days, and I have to say it is a pretty catchy name, to be honest, Elmeleven. But as of May 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 130 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said, they are best known for the different kinds of fruity, juicy, smoothie, Nordic, whatever we're going to call them, sour beers. But yeah, they do some really good stuff in this category, and I'm very curious to try the other beers, because under the Molecule Collective it was Anders who was doing the full-time brewing side of things, so he was brewing the Chad, the Nerd, and the Elmeleven beers, of course. So yeah, exciting times I think for Elmeleven going forward. And yeah, if you ever see Anders, he's quite recognisable. Long ginger hair, which is unusual for a Swedish person, and very colourful tattoos. Really nice guy. Do sit and have a chat with him if you get the chance. But yeah, as I say, that's everything I can tell you about Elmeleven for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they have done. So yeah, now we can take a breath. That's the history section of the video over. We can focus a little bit more on the beer. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open up. You can see the can has been sweating a little bit because it's quite warm here in Hong Kong, but there you can see the Drop Brewing symbol on the top there, and there is the Elmeleven rocket, if the camera will focus on that. I don't know why it's not wanting to, but yeah, you can see the Elmeleven rocket there. This kind of artwork is something that we've seen from Drop before. This is incidentally a 440 milliliter can, gold top on it there, which is quite a nice touch. This one, I think it was packaged on the 11th of April 2026, so we're getting this one very fresh, actually, about a month old, and I've had this for a wee bit, actually, maybe 2 weeks or so. So yeah, it says on the side here as well, Spark Us Up, quad fruited pulp sour, made in collaboration with new pals and fellow fruit space explorers Elmeleven, all the way from Malmö, Sweden. Chad and Anders invited us on a journey into absolute fruit-laden madness, producing one of our most heavily fruited beers ever, something they dub the Pulp Series in their galaxy. Blueberry, raspberry, passion fruit, dragon fruit and pineapple all coalesce into a mind-bending, pulp-inducing whirlwind of deliciousness for your mouth. Open up, the future is now. So it tells us that we should roll this a little bit, so we'll do that before we open it up. As I say, 6% fruity smoothie sour, this one, and it says we have to turn it upside down a few times, yeah, to get the fruit to spread out. So yeah, make sure that you do that with these beers. It also says as well, I quite like this with quite a few of the Australian breweries now. It says brewed on the land of the Kamaingal people at 5th Erith Street, Botany, New South Wales, Australia. Yeah, I like that. Australia building better relations with the Aboriginals these days. So yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. Spark Us Up. This will be good. Let's get it out into the glass and see what we have here. So yeah, I'm going to pour the full thing of this one at the start just because I don't want it to kind of re-sediment, but look at that pour. That's ridiculous. Damn, this thing looks beautiful. Look how thick that is as well. Jeez. Right, well, anyway, the appearance of this one, I will tell you, is beautiful. But it's not surprising if you know these breweries, let's just say that. So yeah, you can see the carbonation is just moving up slowly toward the head on this one. I'll just bring that forward and let you have a little look at it. So you can see we've got a nice, probably 2/3 finger of a frothy, kind of pinkish tinted head there. Kind of medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, and I think they stay about the same size as you go up to the head, but that head's going to fade away to give us a thinner, more foamy layer the further down that we go. But yeah, colour-wise, this beer is like a Heart of Midlothian football jersey, as I always term it. Lovely, kind of very rich, kind of burgundy colour. There's not much now in the way of visible carbonation with this one, But yeah, it looks pretty much as you would expect from a smoothie sour. And as I say, if you've seen the Elmeleven beers before, or Drop Brewing beers, yeah, you would expect this kind of appearance from them. This thing is opaque as fuck, basically, which you would kind of you would expect. But yeah, the colour of this is lovely. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour as well. And when it comes to kind of smoothie sours, that is what plays a big role in the colour. So the colour in this one is most likely coming from a combination of the blueberry, raspberry, and maybe the dragon fruit. I don't know how much colour dragon fruit will give you, but probably the blueberry and the raspberry are the ones giving this beer the majority of its colour. But the haziness in this will come from the oat content and wheat content, of course, maybe a bit from the yeast too. But yeah, this beer looks very, very nice. Yeah, one thing I will say as well about both of these breweries is that yeah, they do a lot of different things. The thing with Elmeleven too is a lot of the beers that I drank from them were kind of red smoothie sours. I always got quite excited when Anders would do a yellow sour, and they were always very good as well. I don't know if I liked them so much because they were better than the red ones, if you like, or I mean, it's always relative, or whether I liked it because it was different and it was also very, very good. That's the interesting thing. I've had, I'm not sure whether they're doing more yellow sours and things like that now than they were before, but yeah, you know, Drop Brewing do a whole host of different things. I get the impression that Drop Brewing is quite a bit bigger in terms of capacity than Elmeleven is, but we'll see. Well, you know, I'll find that out when I go back to Sweden. But anyway, I think we've said everything we need to about the appearance of this beer. The head has just faded away to be a kind of thinner, more foamy layer now. But I think we can take a look at the aroma then and see what this beer is all about. So I'm very curious about this. Oh, actually, yeah, this is interesting. I'm going to say straight away, this beer is really pretty damn sweet. It's a lot sweeter than I remember some of the other ones. And I mean it's a bit more kind of candied almost, rather than being like big oily and sort of juicy and fruity and things like that. That's for sure. Yeah, this is kind of interesting because from both breweries, this is certainly more kind of candied than I remember any of them. Either of them doing before. So yeah, but it kind of gives you what you'd expect. The aroma and the flavour of these smoothie sours is generally quite straightforward, but if the beers are done nicely, they're so good to drink. So yeah, let's just break down the aroma of this one then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So of course the focus is on the fruit, but we'll start with the malty side of things first. I mean, underneath you get a little bit of a kind of fresh, white bready bread crust in there. So there's a wee bit of that, a little bit of woodiness to it, a wee bit of cracker as you very often get, picking up a mix of like brown bread and white bread, and I can definitely get, you know, very often with these smoothie sours, you get quite a little bit of, yeah, you get quite a little bit of a yogurty character out of them, and that's from the combination of the wheat and the oats. So yeah, there's a lovely sort of kind of vanilla, yogurty kind of character to this one, although it does remind me a wee bit of the kind of petit filou fromage fraise that my mum used to put in my lunchbox when I was a wee boy going to school. So there's that kind of stuff going on. There's a little hint of like a fudgy Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch in the nose as well, and that's, you know, that'll be the alcohol of course, but there's just a little bit of that. On the yeasty side of things, for me, you know, the yeasty character comes out at the back of the nose. For me, the yeasty side of this beer is quite, I would say, it's more kind of leaning toward like a soft, fresh, white bready kind of note. So yeah, the way that goes together is really, really nice one. So yeah, fresh, fluffy, yeah, fresh, fluffy white bread coming out of this one at the back of the nose, and maybe just a little hint of cracker as well. So yeah, the way that this one goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. In terms of the hoppy side of things then with this beer, or the green component if you like. So when it comes to sour beers, with the old school Belgian ones, what they used to do was add older hops to the beer that had lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency, because they didn't want to the bitterness of the hops to detract from the sourness of the beer. When it comes to modern sour breweries, some brewers will argue, oh yeah, let's put the hops in because that gives you a little bit more depth of flavour, gives you a little bit more complexity. Valid argument. Some brewers though, like Elmeleven and One Drop, they will say, oh yeah, there's no point putting hops in these beers because the fruit that you use as adjuncts is going to suppress the green component anyway, and that's also valid. It just really depends on what you want to do. It's always interesting to ask a sour beer brewery what their hopping mentality is. But yeah, in terms of this one, I'm pretty sure there's not hops used in this because it's not really that bitey in terms of what you're getting, but there is a wee bit of placebo effect in there. I mean, there's a little bit of like green, grassy and kind of leafy floral element coming out of this one for sure, and maybe a little bit of woody herbal character as well, and I think that's most likely to come from the raspberries, the bramble kind of stuff. So yeah, there is a little bit of that in there. But yeah, there's not really much in the way of kind of green component with it otherwise. But the fruity side of this one, it's quite interesting. For me, the fruits that stand out most in this, I think it's the raspberry's the one that's giving you that little bit of potency. The blueberry's giving you the juiciness underneath. The dragon fruit, I think, is giving you an almost slightly like spicy fruity note. The pineapple, I'm just trying to check that I go through all these. The pineapple and the passion fruit, I can smell a wee bit of the passion fruit in its kind of smoothness underneath, but I'm struggling to get the pineapple, in all honesty, with this one. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the blueberry and the passion fruit are giving you the softer notes. The dragon fruit's almost giving you a wee bit of a kind of more spicy fruitiness. And yeah, the raspberry's giving you that kind of sharper, tartar note as well. And you can see around the edge of the glass, just look at that, you can see the bits of fruit particles sticking to the side of it there as well. But yeah, aroma wise, this beer, quite straightforward like I said, but it is really, really nicely, it comes together very, very nicely. So as I always say, take a little bit of time just to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. So yeah, let's do that then. This one is the Spark Us Up, a 6% smoothie sour with blueberry, raspberry, pineapple, passion fruit and dragon fruit in it from One Drop Brewing in Botany, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, in collaboration with Elmeleven from Arlöv, Malmö, Skåne, Sweden. Let's get stuck in, this is going to be good. Slange, skål, cheers. Really happy to see these guys collaborated. Yeah, I think you can tell by the smile on my face. Yeah, I would not have expected anything less from either of these breweries, never mind when you put the two together. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculously good. Yeah, thumbs up to both. Yeah, I'm glad I bought this. Very glad I bought this. Yeah. Oh, damn, that is really, really good. So, it gives you everything you want. If you've had these kind of beers from One Drop or Elmeleven before, the only surprise is kind of how good this one is. Actually, this one feels like both breweries' beers, but just amped up a little bit. You've turned it up to 11. This is beautiful. This is very, very good. Yeah, let's break it down then and describe it more in depth as we always do. Middle third of the palate. Yeah, backbone of the beer. You've got a little touch, a very slight touch of like a fresh white bready bread crust in there, wee bit of wood further forward and a wee bit of cracker, but on top of that it's all about those kind of yogurty flavours. Yeah, so this one, so you've got the bread crust, the cracker, the wee bit of wood, you've got this really kind kind of thick layer sitting on top of that. And I think into the aftertaste you do get a wee bit of breadiness out of it. So maybe there's a fluffy layer of white bread and a more dense wheaty white bread. But yeah, maybe above that layer takes a bit of time to show itself. But above that you have this really dense, creamy, you have this really thick, dense, creamy note in there, which is like a, it's hard to say whether I don't know whether I would describe it as more of a like vanilla yogurt or more of a fruit yogurt, because the fruits are coming out all over the place in this beer, which you'd expect. But yeah, the yogurty layer that you get there from the thick creamy oats is lovely. And further forward on that middle, third year palate, you get that nice kind of vanilla note coming out of the beer. And that lingers there into the aftertaste. And I think above that oaty layer, there's just a little circle in the middle of your palate that gives you this little bit of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, very slightly like fudgy or toffee-ish type note there. That's of course the alcohol coming out of the beer. So yeah, like I say, the malt base in these beers is pretty straightforward, but it really works for this style. Yeah, I think I don't think we need to say much more about the we need to say much more about the middle third of your palate then. So, as I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. This is a very sweet style of beer, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But let's go to the back third of the palate, and yeah, back third of your palate tends to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but at different intensities. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build-up in there. So there's a wee bit of kind of brown bready character in the base. There's a wee bit of the more kind of white bready character on top of that, then the more dense wheaty note above that. But yeah, the base of the back third of your palate, it is a little bit more bready rather than being yogurty in honesty. So yeah, you've got the fresh white bready bread crust in there, which is a little bit drier. The cracker sits above that. The layer of like wholemeal, there's a layer of kind of like more wholemealy brown bread, which feels a little bit, you know, light, tall and airy. The fluffy white bread from the barley malt above that. Then you can feel the sort of yogurty character, the kind of creaminess of the wheat and the oats combined creeps over the top of that. And you get a wee touch of bite from the wheat there, I think, on the back third of your palate too, but the creaminess and sweetness of the oats just creeps over the top of it. So the yeasty side of things with this one is, more along the lines of like at its core it's got like a sweet brown bready character to it, then it's surrounded by like a wet white bread, and then yeah, you've got like a kind of bread crusty note around the very edge of this one as well. So yeah, the way that it goes together in that sense, I think, is really quite nice. So yeah, the yeasty character there kind of lingers a wee bit into the aftertaste, but yeah, the yogurty and slightly bready backbone that this beer has into the aftertaste is very nice. But of course, the fruity impact is where the focus should be. But definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller, and as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah. Really good stuff. So let's focus on the kind of green placebo component of this beer and the fruity side of things then. So, as I say, when you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it's always going to suppress a bit of the green component around the side of your palate, which is why a number of modern sour beer breweries do not use hops. But nevertheless, you still get some placebo effect in there. Like for me, there's a little touch of, there's a tiny bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. There's a wee bit of woodiness. There's a little bit of woodiness further forward, and then yeah, a little bit of floral aromaticity and a wee bit of grassiness in there. So yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, in that sense is nice. You can feel, I think it's the raspberry that's kind of pushing against the front curve of your tongue, because you get the tartness of the raspberry there, and I think it's the kind of blueberry and maybe a bit of the passion fruit that's pushing against the back sides of your palate, because it's got that softer kind of note to it. But yeah, I don't think we need to say too much more about green component and placebo effect with this beer. Let's go to the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of things. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. You get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, and then the more oaty, creamy sort of stuff on the top. The base of the front third of your palate, yeah, the fresh white bready bread crust, the cracker, wee bit of the bready notes coming out, and then yeah, you get that creamy yogurty sort of note coming forward. And the yogurt has that little touch of kind of acidity to it as well, I would say, and the fruit obviously coming in with the adjuncts is kind of contributing to that. So yeah, for me, what I would say is that the more tropical, yeah, the more yellow fruits, if you like, with this one, to me it feels like, you know, if you split the front third of your palate in half, because normally you get that oily bubble where the fruity juicy esters from the hops come out, but here we're talking about adjunct fruits, so they're doing different things. The back half of that front third of your palate, you can feel the soft passion fruit kind of forming the base, and I think there's a bit of the juicier pineapple kind of sitting further forward on that, maybe toward the middle of that front third of your palate. But yeah, in the front half of the front third of your palate, it's the blueberry, the juiciness and softness of the blueberry. So yeah, the base I think is the passion fruit and the blueberry. The pineapple comes out in the middle, I think, of the front third of your palate, and then on the front half of the front third of your tongue, I think above the blueberry you've got the dragon fruit. The dragon fruit's a little bit more juicy. I was picking it up as like a kind of spicy note in the beginning, but I think the dragon fruit will give you a little bit of tartness. But yeah, on top of everything else, kind of on that front tip of your tongue, the sharpness and the tartness of this beer is absolutely coming from the raspberry. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So yeah, the fruitiness in this beer is just madness, but I love it. It's great. Yeah, so for me, yeah, the raspberry gives it the tartness, a bit with the dragon fruit as well, the juiciness from the dragon fruit as well. Then underneath that, blueberry. Back half is more about, yeah, the passion fruit, and then the pineapple comes out a wee bit further forward. The pineapple almost forms a bridge between the kind of more yellow fruits and the red fruits, if you like, in this one. I include the blueberries in that, even though they're kind of blue. But yeah, the way that this one goes together fruity wise is really, really nice. I've got a feeling this might be the first quadruple fruited sour beer or smoothie sour that I've had. And I think this is a good point to switch over and talk about the mouthfeel. We have said everything we need to about the flavour. So mouthfeel wise, this beer for me, it's not like the thickest and creamiest of smoothie sours that I've had, but it's certainly like the kind of juiciest and silky fruity one. I think the fruit, when you add fruit into the beer, it gives you this more kind of silky type mouthfeel rather than being really thick and creamy. That's what I'm noticing about this one. This isn't the thickest beer that I've had either from Elmeleven or from One Drop, but it's certainly like the juiciest and silkiest one, I think, is the best way to describe this. So I would say this one is kind of like bottom end of full bodied, top end of mid bodied, very, very smooth, almost non-existent carbonation in this one. The malt base, as we say, gives you a little bit of dryness underneath, but a big smoothness in the middle, that yogurty note, and there's a very slight acidity from those kind of yogurty flavours as well. Little touch of yeastiness there, pretty much zero IBUs in this, pretty much, yeah, zero IBUs in this case. But 5, maybe technically speaking you've got 5 or whatever, but yeah, the fruity juiciness of this one is just unreal. I don't think I've had a beer quite like this before, and it's very reflective of what both of these breweries are trying to do. So this is a wonderful beer. I think it would be a shame if they only brewed this once, but that said, both breweries brew many things that are like this. But yeah, this has been a really wonderful one to try. As I say, very straightforward in terms of what it's, in terms of the flavour profile. Not the most complex of things compared to, say, barley wines or Scotch ales or whatever. But these beers, if they're done right, they are wonderful, and this one is a wonderful, wonderful beer. So yeah, I think that concludes everything that I really want to say about this one. This has been really, really nice to try. So yeah, I think we can leave it there. this one was the Spark Us Up, a 6% smoothie sour with passion fruit, pineapple, raspberry, blueberry and dragon fruit, brewed by One Drop Brewing Company in Botany, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, in collaboration with Elmeleven from Arlev, just outside of Malmö in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Two wonderful sour beer breweries that I would highly recommend you check out if you like these big fruity, juicy, smoothie Nordic sours as I do. This one has been great to try, and I'm glad I picked this up. I need to go and look at the other one drops now and see what's there. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This has been really nice to try. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from both One Drop and Elmeleven as well, and I'm sure we'll return to both of these guys on the channel at some point in the very near future. But until the next time, Slanja, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very shortly. Ciao just now.